Okay.
And we're good, everyone. This is Charles Huth, and he's gonna be doing some art with us today. Please ask questions and interact with him on Twitch. He's been on Discord with us all day, and he's done some work for me and Logan at Storm Giant. Some really awesome stuff for some of our spell cards. So please enjoy. Charles, take it away.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I've got the chat up, and I'm just going to be kind of walking through my process, what I normally do. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. I'm definitely open to participation and like answering questions and just hearing what you guys think. So I typically do things in Illustrator myself. So this is my first time streaming my art, so it's a little weird for me. I typically do my art in Illustrator, so that's what I've brought up today. As you can see, I've got a sketch of kind of the original design laid out, and we're just going to be kind of doing what I normally do, which is creating the line work, blocking it out, and then depending how far we go, we'll add some color and stuff. So yeah. So as kind of I've been showcasing this week, I've done a series of prints based on the D&D classes. As you can see here, I've got the wizard, or at least a sketch of the wizard, kind of lined up, and I'll be working on that today. So, yeah, let's lock this layer here. Okay, so typically I just go through, do the line work. I use the pen tool. I'm using the mouse right now. I've got a tablet set up, but for this kind of more finesse line work, I like using the mouse and just anchoring things. Thank you, Remy, for the comment. Good to know the chat's working. So yeah, it's a little slow at first, but as it goes, you kind of see it take shape. Actually, let's see if I can mute that. Just gonna close that for now. Sorry, let me. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna get rid of that. So yeah, pretty meditative, honestly. Just kind of working on the lines. Sorry, I'm just gonna mute Discord real quick. Okay. Yes, thank you, Spiders and Mantis. I do take commissions. I've actually got some up on my Instagram. If I can pull some up here. I've done a series of commissions for different people, drawing kind of their party. Um, so here's one that I did for the friend's Curse of Strahd game. Kind of both Strahd and each of the different characters. So yeah, that's example of some commissions, and like I said, there's more on my Instagram, Charles Huth Art, that kind of just see the variety that I've done in the past. And of course, always reach out to me if you're interested in commissions. So yeah, this is actually a very well-timed demo for me. I've been putting off drawing up the wizard for about a year and a half now, I think. So I finally cross this off my list. So yeah. Oh, how's everyone's day been so far? It's I've been kind of following the con all day, so it's been pretty exciting to see how it's been going. Um, I know it's definitely nice, even in times where we can't all get out, to kind of have events like this where we can all get together. Um, oh, cool. The count. Thank you for that. Glad to hear that. You think so? Um, whoa, there must have been a lag or something. I'm just getting an explode of comments. Yeah. So process as I go. Like I said, it's kind of tracing at this point, with just getting the lines to go to the sketches, match the sketch. I've been using the pen and the arc tool to kind of just, I mean, it's Illustrator, so it's all vector based. So it's really an issue of just getting the lines to kind of match what you want. Um, and so it's almost more like building a thing than really drawing it. Um, which is kind of why I got drawn to Illustrator in the first place. It's a bit more like construction or sculpture as opposed to Photoshop or something which is more painterly. Um, yeah. So another thing I've been doing is making sure the line widths are kind of all um, something I think a lot about with these drawings, trying to see which parts are more emphasized. And yeah, kind of worth mentioning, I am using Adobe Illustrator for this, and Adobe, as mentioned in the chat, Adobe CC is free for 2 now for anyone to try out. I'm also a designer kind of as my day job, so I use these programs pretty regularly, but if anyone's open to trying them out, I highly recommend it. They're great for illustration, graphic design. Of course, there are other options out there program wise, but they're, at least in my eyes, kind of the gold standards. So yeah. Um, okay, now kind of working on the book aspect. Can you not hear me? I am talking. Just want to make sure this is working right. So yeah, let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Actually, okay, good, cool. Good to hear. Thanks for that. First time doing a Discord stream or a Twitch stream like this, so few kinks to work out. Yes, Spider Mantis. I do take commissions. I've done several parties, D&D parties before, and there's samples on my Instagram, Charles Huth Art, at Instagram. It's cool. God, it freaked me out there for a moment. I was like, was I talking this whole time and no one could hear me? But glad to hear that's not the case. And you can kind of see here, there's a few points where the edges are kind of overlapping at the moment. Yeah. Yes. Just hope you're all ready for an hour of me being quiet. How much for a character, you ask? Yes. Typically, kind of varies based on like how complex some of the characters are, because it can change to time. But usually around 30 to $40 per character, and kind of like some bulk discounts if I'm doing like a whole party or something. Cool. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, doing the book now. One of the things that was kind of interesting for this series was giving each class like a kind of archetypal object or item to identify them with. Some of them was pretty easy, like wizard and book. That's pretty obvious. Others like took me a long time to figure out. I still haven't figured out the monks, kind of how to signify the monk. I've played around with things like with hands or something. They're weird because they're like a class that isn't. They're identified by their lack of items rather than any sort of classification. So yeah, just it's kind of fun trying to think of the design of each of the characters, what and how you identify these different classes. And yeah, if you guys are curious, I do have the Cyball. Oh, that's interesting. That could be cool. That is a good. I'm gonna have to think about that. I like. I have to read up on how Cyballs work again. And how I'd show that. I do, aside from the monk and the wizard, though, I do have the other characters up on my Instagram and my website, Charles Huth Art. If you ever want to like check those out and see what I'm kind of rambling about. But yeah, how about you guys? Do you all have like a favorite D&D class? Those of you that do play D&D. I know it's something like everyone's got their favorite, it seems. So it's been a lot of fun working on this series and seeing because everyone kind of reacts differently. And picks out typically one or two designs, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is my guy. This is my dude." Um, yeah, feel free to comment in the chat if you have any preferences. I know personally, I've been playing warlocks recently in kind of the newer D&D campaigns I've been a part of, and those are always a lot of fun because they're very, very versatile. Not just a lot of shenanigans you can get up to. Generally, what I prioritize in a D&D game is shenanigans, but that's me. Ooh, Artificer and War Mage. That's a cool combo. Artificers are always. I've never played one, but I've always really liked the class. I could see how that'd work very well with War Mage too. Was that a 5e Artificer? I haven't really played with their rules yet, so I'm curious to see how it worked. Clerics are always good. Very nice ability set. I don't know. I never really got into like the character of clerics myself, but I can see how they're a lot of fun to play. So yeah, we're making. Oh, gotta lock those guides. We're making some pretty good progress on the line work, which is nice. Because it's always the kind of the most tedious part. Latest artist. Ooh, Battlesmith. That's nice. It's cool. Actually, come to think, I wasn't entirely right. I did play a druid not a druid, a artificer very briefly for like a few games. That was a lot of fun. I played a knitting based granny artificer. So that was just a really crazy character. Druid, oh yes. I am going to reflect it very shortly. That's another thing I like about Illustrator is because all the lines are treated as separate objects. You can kind of reflect them all very easily. So once I've got the details down, I'll just reflect it all, and we'll be good to go on the next step. As far as Druid, I haven't played 5e Druid. I know in older editions they were just ridiculous. But so I'd be apparently they're still broken. Wouldn't surprise me. They're always lots of fun though. Uh, okay. So for some of these, I can kind of speed up a bit by using shapes as opposed to just tracing it out and then altering the shape. There we go. Yeah, that's roughly an eye shape. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that's an eye. Gosh, I guess since we got a few people in the chat now, I'll ask a question that I've been pondering. What's people have like a favorite campaign or module that they like to run, or is it mostly homebrew in the group? Oh wow! Thank you for that, Mr. Narv. The Secret of Kells is actually one of my favorite movies, so it's a big compliment. Really appreciate that. But yeah, as I was saying, kind of any favorite modules or mostly homebrew? I know I've mostly done homebrew myself, but it's kind of Dark Sun. Interesting. Is that something you've come? Huh. Now is the Dark Sun, is that something you came up the mod you came up with yourself, or is there a resource used for that? I'm curious. And also, I haven't heard of Goodman Games. I'll have to look them up. There's just so many resources out there now for homebrew and like pre-made stuff. It's kind of mind-boggling, really. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say good things about Dark Sun, but I've never played it myself. Kind of got into it after 2E, so it's interesting to see there people are out there converting it. Okay. So it looks like we got most of the lines done. Just gotta finish up that beard. Then we can kind of get to the fun, more technical parts. So speaking of the Artificer and like different settings, has anyone played Everon? I've never played it myself, but like I've always really kind of dug the pulp vibe. Before how long was this beer before COVID isolation? That's a real comment. It's a little real for me. I haven't shaved since isolation, so it's my beard's roughly as long as this drawing right now. Um, cool. I'm definitely gonna have to check out that Ebron book. I think that might be the next kind of setting I play. Everything willing. Um, okay, and as I kind of finish this up, kind of more deciding on like how thick I want the lines to be. Because that's something nice, cool to hear about the book. Uh, okay, gotta keep going. Almost done here. So yeah, and really the next phase is going to be colors, which I'll admit I haven't really thought of too much for this guy. What's a particularly wizardry color scheme? I guess purple's typically very magical and royal. Coming from a design background, like color is something I'm always thinking about, especially with characters. Like what color palette is this personality, this character? It's part of what made this series very fun. Okay. Let's smooth that beard out a bit. Okay. Just do this. Okay, just a few. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. The continuous line is definitely intentional. Get to the point where kind of later in the steps, I actually just turn all the lines into one big block where they all merge together and handle them like that. Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of stained glass and a little bit of calligraphy kind of influence this look, as well as like playing cards, where kind of all the lines are treated. Also, just having a good flow is really important to me with a design, making sure they all kind of the shapes link into each other. Okay. So just doing okay. And now I think we've got it where we can get rid of that layer. Let's see. So I guess something I've been thinking about, kind of as I've been working on this series of classes, is of course the eternal question of what do I do after them. I've debated on doing something like off of the different races, or maybe could do subclasses. I don't know. I'm curious what kind of things would be fun to do next in this style. Okay. So as you can see, I've got it all, got the line work for one side down. So just group that together. And then select it all. And just move it over so it lines up. And that's part of just the advantage of having most of these pieces be very symmetrical. Okay, unfortunately now there's going to be a little bit of cleanup with the things that aren't symmetrical. Okay, so now we got the line work going good, pretty much. So I'm just going to copy that over. I like to keep little kind of backups in the pasteboard, just in case I mess something up later on. So now what I do is something I kind of worked out through process of elimination is I make it all kind of one entity like that. And then start adding color in, which kind of gets into the issue of what color is a wizard. For the sake of argument, let's go with blue and yellow. Oh. Oh, looks like there's some stream lag in the stream. Interesting. Okay, I'll just keep going. So let's see, blue, blue, blue. Okay, now lucky for you, Dungeon Tape, I already said blue and yellow, so I guess if anyone else had any thoughts, too bad for them. We're going with blue and yellow. I'm gonna have to choose some other skin tone color too. Okay. Another thing I'm glad you appreciate that. Another thing I'm personally a fan of Illustrator, so like there's lots of resources for this online, is it's got some color books. Yeah, I gotta figure out a skin tone, which I'm kind of in the process of doing. So I was saying color books, but what I like is it's got a historical selection, and you can find these online too. So it's got a bunch of colors sorted by like art history. Um, Middle Ages, of course, I use a lot for this series. So let's see. That's kind of a decent neutral. We'll see how it looks with everything else added. But we'll keep that for now. And right now, I'm just kind of doing the big general, like 3 blocks of color, and I'll add different tones and add a bit of shading as well later. And while we're kind of blocking things in, let's zoom out a bit and add a background. I don't know why I always associated blue with wizards. Maybe that's the Mickey Mouse and hat thing from the Wizard's Apprentice. Um, let's see. Okay, so I usually set up a gradient for the backgrounds. So let's drop that in now so we can see what the colors are going to look like. So yeah. This is a process. If I'm not careful, I could just spend doing for hours, just fiddling around with colors. Okay, we'll do that for now. So we got a bit of a gradient. Then yeah, let's make those lines nice blue too, so they don't stick out too much. Let's color in those pages. Oh. The one thing you gotta be careful of, at least for like when you do bulk changes, is they're not always, things that are separate are not always affected. So just gotta make sure, kind of going in and changing everything. Otherwise, some things get left out. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's add that into pop. Just checking the stream, still going. Yeah. So I guess as I was saying earlier, like what would be the next kind of I guess if I want to keep in with D&D kind of categories to draw. Could be monsters. Monsters would be fun. A lot of classics with the beholders and mind flayers. Kind of lots of good tentacles that lend themselves to all sorts of cool patterns. Um, that could be fun. Okay. Now that we got the base code down, I'm going to start adding in the kind of different shades. Try and, I mean, it's still a very flat image, but I want to get some dimension in. There we go. Get a little moon. I feel like I'm a half a step away from turning into Bob Ross here. Like, have little happy trees. It's just very easy to narrate everything in that fashion. Okay. Yeah, there's a few things with the lines that I would like probably get rid of. But I can always do that after the fact. Okay, let's see what the next. Okay, just kind of checking for reference what I've done. Okay. Just checking to see what I did on previous one to make sure they're all consistent. It's the hardest part of doing like a big series is there's a lot of little details to get right for consistency's sake. Like I debated on a lot of different ways to do shading. That was always a grand debate. Okay. So we got 2 shades of yellow here. Let's go a shade darker. Wait. Okay, this is the you can see I'm just kind of making these little drops in the side of the screen. Like I said, I like to use a lot of reference when drawing. Not reference, but kind of have my process all laid out. Okay, it's coming along pretty nicely. Okay. Now we can also add this in. So now we're getting a bit more into the part where I start needing different layers and things. Background. Okay. So another thing I like to do is get some lines kind of in the background of the pattern. Kind of as a nice like echo of what's going on. Let's okay. Let's see. People in the chat still here? I know it's mostly been me talking to myself for the past 20 minutes, which I mean some people are into that, but yeah, so if people are still around, let me know. Otherwise I'm just gonna keep talking about my process vaguely. Also, if anyone has any... Oh, glad to hear. Oh, now the cat catching up. Cool. Glad to hear. Yeah, if you have any questions, it is very meditative. That's true. It's easy to kind of get in the flow, which is kind of why it's hard to talk about. Cool. If there's any questions about the process or anything else in kind of my design and illustration process workflow, let me know. It's possible to turn any JPEG into a vector. It's kind of tricky. There are tools that Illustrator has to kind of like break it down into a vector. Kind of like a scan sort of feature. It isn't always the greatest though. So I think if you're patient with vector, the better result is to kind of trace it using vector tools. Granted, that takes a lot more time. So yeah, it's not as easy as dropping a JPEG in, but there are ways to kind of turn it into a vector. Yeah. Also, Narv, glad you're enjoying it. It's certainly a different flow than Photoshop, to be sure. Okay, I'm trying to think of where to go next. Here, let's get this for the book. And there we go. Okay. Okay. So we got pretty much the basics down. Might add some shapes in here to fill that out. Let's do that. Yes, all about those shapes. Um, oh, yeah, I think I'll work on those. Yeah, that's a fair point. I might have to play that safe there. Certainly treacherous territory. Yeah. No, that's not much better, is it? Eh, I'll leave that for later. Um, okay. So the next step would be adding shading, which is, well, I guess I've technically done some shading. Oh, here's a fun trick I like to do for these sort of things. Okay. Oh, hey Hayden. So yeah, I'm just doing a little art demo of the character class illustrations I've been doing, um, based on the classes in Dungeons and Dragons. So these are kind of line art heavy vector arts I've been doing. And right now we're working on the wizard, as you can see by the pointy hat and beard. So here's something I like to do in regards to color. And I think Photoshop and other programs have similar functions, but in Illustrator at least, we have the blend tool, which breaks it down very nicely. Yeah, letters are very easily added because you can do that in program. And most typefaces have a vector equivalent. So I was just gonna can do some text here. Ooh. So like wizard. I've been using Palatino Bold for this. Yeah. And we'll do that. Yeah. So text can be added pretty easily. And it's nice because it can be enlarged and altered without worrying about it. So yeah, the colors, as I was saying, you can break it down into these steps here. So now with that, Let me adjust my layers. I can go in and add. Oh, that's right. So this is the other reason I keep the line work. Okay. So now I'm going to be adding color in over this to kind of give it some dimension. So we got this as the color layer, which we put down on the bottom. Now we bring in the lines we saved over here. Make them all one group. And we make sure that lines up. Okay. Okay. So now that we've got a line layer here, kind of the bold outlines, and we got the colors down here, we can insert a layer of color, like not like that. Like we'll make it this color. Okay. Cool. Thanks. Thanks, Storm Giant. Hope you've had fun meditating with happy little vectors with me. So I'll kind of, honestly, this is a good stopping point because the rest is just me finagling with things until it looks like a finished copy. So yeah, you can see by adding just these little blocks of slightly different shades, we can add a like a shadow effect. Let's save that because it's always important. Thanks. Glad to hear it. Hey. Yeah, it was very productive. Okay. Okay, thank you so much.